I've been a hospice nurse for years and I've seen just about every way a life can end. Quietly, painfully, peacefully, even unexpectedly. But every so often, something happens that no chart, no training, no textbook can prepare you for. One of those moments happened with a patient I'll never forget. She was in her mid-80s, a woman with end-stage kidney disease. By the time she came to us, she was already frail, her body slowly shutting down. We had her on medications for pain and shortness of breath, and I was monitoring her closely for signs of fluid overload. She had declined dialysis months earlier, choosing comfort care over intervention. Her family had set up her room at home just the way she wanted. Her favorite quilt on the bed, a vase of flowers on the nightstand, soft music playing from a little radio. We had placed the hospital bed near the window because she loved watching the trees outside. As part of my shift, I went through the routine, checked her respirations, adjusted her oxygen tubing, documented her vitals, and confirmed her morphine was titrated correctly. I explained to the family what each sign meant, what modeling of the skin indicated, why her breathing was changing, and how we knew the end was near. Everything about that evening was from a medical perspective, exactly what we expect. But what happened next wasn't. The family was gathered, her 2 daughters, a son-in-law, and a couple of grandchildren. They were quiet, keeping watch. Sometimes in hospice, families tell stories and fill the room with laughter, but this night was different. It was solemn, a waiting that felt heavy, like everyone knew the moment was close. I'd seen it enough times to recognize the signs. Her gaze was unfocused, her breathing shallow, and she'd been less responsive all day. I sat with the family, answering their questions, keeping them grounded in the reality of what was happening. Then, just as the sun dipped low, it happened. The window beside her bed was cracked open. It wasn't the season for butterflies. In fact, it was early spring, still cool outside, and they were rare in that part of the state at that time of year. But suddenly a single butterfly floated in through the window, then another, and another. Within minutes, the room was full of them. They weren't swarming or chaotic. They moved slowly, gracefully, almost deliberately. Some landed on the curtains. One perched on the quilt near her feet. Another rested quietly on the bed rail. The family stared in silence, not knowing what to say. Her breathing grew even shallower. She opened her eyes briefly, looked toward the window, and for the first time in days, smiled. Not a big smile, just a faint, knowing one. A few breaths later she was gone, and still the butterflies lingered. Her daughters were in tears. One whispered, "It's Mom's sign." She always loved butterflies. Another said that when they were children, their mother used to take them into the garden and tell them butterflies carried messages from the soul. No one moved for a long while. Even I, trained to document, to stay steady, to follow procedure, found myself standing still, watching the impossible unfold in that room. Eventually the butterflies began to drift out the window the same way they had entered, as quietly as they'd come. From a medical standpoint, there's nothing in my training that explains it. Hospice nurses are careful with our words. We don't sensationalize. We don't make promises about signs or visions. My role is to monitor, to adjust medications, to provide comfort and education. That's what I did that night. I confirmed time of death, charted it, and guided the family through the next steps. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't moved. In this work, I've seen patients reach for people unseen, whisper names of long-lost loved ones, or smile at moments no one else understands. But the butterflies, dozens of them, in a season they shouldn't have been there, was something entirely different. It stays with me because of the timing. Not before, not hours after, but in the exact moment her life slipped away. It wasn't frightening. It wasn't chaotic. It was quiet, beautiful, even. For the family it gave meaning. They didn't just lose their mother. They felt she was carried, accompanied, and that the butterflies were part of her farewell. For me as a nurse, it reminded me that no matter how much science we lean on, not everything can be explained. And maybe in hospice it's not our job to explain. Sometimes it's just to witness. I often tell people that hospice care is about more than medicine. It's about being present in the most vulnerable moments of human life. We manage pain. We guide families. We keep the environment calm. But we also stand witness to mysteries we can't fully name. That night, in that room, the mystery came in the form of a butterfly storm. And while my chart for that shift looks like any other, medications given, comfort maintained, time of death recorded, I know in my heart that what happened there was something extraordinary, and I carry it with me still, not as something to explain, but as something to honor.